The very fact that you are here in this moment reading these words is not a coincidence. It is what I call divine timing. See, consciousness is the only reality, and your presence here is a manifestation of your readiness for transformation. Let me tell you about the law that governs all manifestation. It's called the law of assumption, and it works with mathematical precision. The mere fact that you're encountering this message is a seed planted in the garden of your consciousness, waiting to bloom into the most magnificent expression of your desired reality. Now, let me share with you what I mean by big changes. Many of you might think of external circumstances, a new job, a relationship, or material success. But I tell you this, the biggest change, the only change that truly matters, is the change in your consciousness. For when you change your consciousness, the outer world has no choice but to conform to your new assumption. In the book of John, it is written, "In the beginning was the Word." This word logos, is your consciousness, your awareness of being. And just as you have been drawn to this message by the magnetic pull of your own expanding consciousness, so too will your world reshape itself to match your new understanding. Consider this: everything in your world, every circumstance, every condition, every person playing a role in your life's drama is nothing more than yourself pushed out. They are all states of consciousness that you have occupied, or occupying, or will occupy. The fact that you're receiving this message is your higher self signaling that you're ready to step into a new state. Let me share with you what I call the law of divine timing. In the book of Ecclesiastes, it is written, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven." Your presence here, your awareness of these words, is that divine timing in action. It is your spiritual awakening calling you to a higher state of consciousness. Now let us understand what preparation truly means in the context of consciousness. Many believe preparation involves external actions, but I tell you this, true preparation is a movement within consciousness. It is the art of assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled before any external evidence appears. In the scripture, it is written, "Before they call, I will answer." This is the perfect law in operation. Your desire for change, your readiness for transformation has already been answered. The very fact that you're receiving this message is the answer preceding your call. Let me tell you about the principle of what I call conscious preparation. When you go to sleep at night, do you prepare your bed? Of course you do. You arrange your pillows, you straighten your sheets. Well, I tell you this, just as you prepare your bed for sleep, you must prepare your consciousness for the manifestation of your desires. But remember, this preparation is not about doing. It is about being. It's not about making things happen. It's about assuming the consciousness of it already being done. The scripture says, "Be still and know that I am God." This stillness is not physical stillness, but the stillness of knowing that what you desire is already yours. Now, let me share with you what I call the art of spiritual navigation. Just as a ship's captain must understand the stars to navigate vast oceans, you must understand the signs in your conscience to navigate the waters of manifestation. Your encounter with this message is such a sign, a celestial marker guiding you toward your divine destiny. In the book of Genesis, it is written, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to be for signs." These signs are not external phenomena, but states of consciousness. The very stirring within you that drew you to this message is one such sign. It is your I am consciousness recognizing itself in a higher state. Let us explore what I call the law of conscious recognition. You see, when you truly understand that consciousness is the only reality, you begin to recognize that everything, every person, every circumstance, every event is yourself pushed out. This message you're receiving is not separate from you. It is you speaking to yourself from a higher state of consciousness. Consider this: in your dream at night, every character, every scene, every dialogue is you. You are the author and the actor of your dream. Similarly, in this waking dream we call life, every experience is you, externalized. Your recognition of this truth is the first step toward conscious creation. Now let me tell you about what I call the principle of imminent transformation. When water reaches its boiling point, it doesn't gradually become steam. The transformation is immediate. Similarly, when your consciousness reaches its point of readiness, transformation isn't gradual, it is instantaneous. Your presence here signals that you're approaching this point of transformation. Let us delve deeper into what I call the mental transformation. In the book of Romans, it is written, "Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." This renewal isn't about adding new thoughts to old patterns. It's about completely revising your conception of yourself and your world. You see, when a caterpillar enters its chrysalis, it doesn't simply grow wings. It completely dissolves before reforming as a butterfly. This is the nature of true transformation. The changes coming into your life require similar dissolution of old patterns of thinking, old assumptions about what's possible. Let me share with you what I call the principle of conscious dissolution. Before any great change can manifest in your world, you must be willing to let your old self dissolve completely. The very fact that you're receiving this message indicates your readiness for this dissolution. In the book of Corinthians, it states, "Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye." This change in the twinkling of an eye isn't about time, it's about consciousness. When you truly assume a new state, the transformation is instantaneous in consciousness, though it may take time to unfold in the world of Caesar. Now, let me explain what I call the law of spiritual momentum. Just as a boulder rolling downhill gains momentum, once you begin this transformation in consciousness, it creates its own momentum. Your old world must crumble to make way for the new, just as the shell of an egg must crack for the bird to emerge. Let us now understand what I call the law of divine timing. Many of you might ask, why now? Why this message? Why these changes? I tell you this, in the realm of consciousness, there is no accident, no coincidence. The timing is perfect because your consciousness has decreed it so. In the book of Ecclesiastes, it is written, "He hath made everything beautiful in his time." This is your own wonderful human imagination, your own I am consciousness. Your imagination has orchestrated this perfect moment of recognition, this divine appointment with your higher self. Consider what I call the principle of spiritual readiness. Just as a fruit ripens at its appointed time, your consciousness ripens for specific revelations and transformations at the perfect moment. The very fact that you're receiving this message is evidence of your spiritual ripeness for the changes that are coming. Let me share with you a profound truth about what I call the law of conscious selection. In your garden, you wouldn't plant seeds until the soil is properly prepared. Similarly, dealing with them within you wouldn't bring you to this message until your consciousness was prepared to receive it and act upon it. Now, understand what I call the principle of imminent manifestation. When a woman is pregnant, there comes a time when birth is imminent. No amount of denial or resistance can prevent it. Similarly, when transformation has been conceived in consciousness, its manifestation becomes inevitable. The changes coming into your life are like that. They have already been conceived in the womb of your consciousness. Your recognition of this message is the first contraction, signaling that birth is imminent. Let me tell you about what I call the law of the conscious recognition. In the book of Matthew, it is written, "When you see these things, know that it is near, even at the doors." This seeing isn't physical sight, it's spiritual recognition. Your recognition of this message, as significant as your spiritual eye opening to the proximity of your transformation. You see, consciousness follows a pattern of unfoldment that I call the principle of spiritual gestation. Just as a child develops in the womb according to a perfect pattern, your manifestation develops in consciousness according to divine order. This message is a signal that your spiritual gestation is nearing completion. Now let us understand what I call the law of conscious authority. Many of you might feel that changes happen to you, that you are at the mercy of external circumstances. But I tell you this, you are the operant power. You are the one giving life to every circumstance through your consciousness. In the book of Job, it is written, "Thou shalt decree a thing, and it shall be established unto thee." This decree isn't made with your lips, it's made in consciousness. Your presence here receiving this message is itself a decree that you've made in the depths of your being. Consider what I call the principle of divine orchestration. Every event in your life, every circumstance, every encounter is orchestrated by your own wonderful human imagination. There are no accidents in consciousness. Your encounter with this message is a deliberate orchestration of your own higher self. The changes coming into your life aren't random events. They are the perfect unfoldment of your own conscious creation. You see, when water reaches a certain temperature, it doesn't gradually become steam, it transforms instantly. Similarly, consciousness has points of intensity where transformation becomes inevitable. Your presence here marks such a point of intensity. In the book of Revelation, it is written, "Behold, I make all things new." This making new isn't a gradual process. It's an instant assumption of a new state. The very intensity of your recognition of this message as significant is the heat that transforms the water of your own consciousness into the steam of your new state. Now, let me share with you what I call the principle of conscious acceleration. When a rocket reaches escape velocity, it breaks free from Earth's gravitational pull. Your consciousness operates similarly. There comes a point when your new assumptions generate enough momentum to break free from old patterns. Consider what I call the law of spiritual velocity. The speed at which your transformation manifests is directly proportional to the intensity of your assumption. The very fact that you're receiving this message with understanding indicates that you've reached the necessary spiritual velocity for transformation. In the book of Isaiah, it states, "For as the rain cometh down, and the snow from heaven, and returneth not thither, but watereth the earth, and maketh it bring forth and bud." This is the perfect law of consciousness in operation. Once a new state is assumed, it must produce after its kind. Let me tell you about what I call the principle of divine inevitability. When a seed is planted in fertile soil, its growth is inevitable. Your consciousness is that fertile soil, and this message is the seed of transformation being planted within it. In the Gospel of Thomas, which wasn't included in the Standard Bible, it is written, "When you make the two one, you will become the sons of man." This making the two one is the marriage of your present consciousness with your desired state. And this message is the bridge between them. You see, what I call the principle of spiritual bridging is operating right now. Every word you're receiving is forming a bridge between your current state and the state you're being called to occupy. This isn't mere coincidence, it's staunch selection at work. Now understand what I call the law of divine timing. Many of you might wonder why this message, why now? But I tell you this, in the realm of consciousness, timing isn't measured by clocks and calendars, but by spiritual readiness. Your presence here is evidence of your readiness. In the book of Ecclesiastes, it states, "He has made everything beautiful in its time." This here is your own wonderful human imagination, your own I am consciousness. It has orchestrated this perfect moment of recognition, this divine appointment with your higher self. Consider what I call the principle of conscious convergence. Just as multiple streams converge to form a mighty river, multiple states of consciousness are converging in this moment to create the perfect conditions for your transformation. This message is the point of convergence. Let me share with you what I call the law of spiritual momentum. When a boulder begins rolling downhill, it generates its own momentum. Similarly, once you begin this transformation in consciousness, it creates its own momentum. Your recognition of this message is the initial push that starts the boulder rolling. In the book of Exodus, it is written, "Let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them." This sanctuary isn't a physical structure, it's a state of consciousness. Your recognition of this message is the beginning of building this sanctuary. You see, what I call the principle of spiritual architectures is at work here. Just as an architect first sees the completed building in his mind, before any physical construction begins, you must see your transformed state in consciousness before it can manifest in your world. Now let me share with you what I call the law of conscious assumption. Many think preparation means taking physical action, but I tell you this, true preparation happens in consciousness. It's the art of assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled before any external evidence appears. In the book of Hebrews it states, "Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." This substance isn't physical, it's consciousness itself. Your faith in the significance of this message is the substance from which your transformation will be molded. Consider what I call the principle of divine sequence. Just as a flower must first form a bud before it can bloom, your transformation follows a divine sequence. This message is the bud. Your recognition of it as significant is the beginning of its blooming. Let me tell you about what I call the law of spiritual gestation. Just as a child develops in the womb according to a perfect pattern, your transformation develops in consciousness according to divine order. This message marks the beginning of a new gestation period in your consciousness. In the book of Acts, it is written, "These that have turned the world upside down are come hither also." This turning upside down isn't physical, it's a complete revolution in consciousness. Your encounter with this message marks the beginning of your conscious revolution. You see, what I call the principle of spiritual inversion is operating here. Just as a photographic negative must be inverted to produce a positive image, your current state must be inverted to manifest your desired state. This message is the catalyst for this inversion. Now, let me share with you what I call the law of conscious precipitation. Just as water vapor must reach a certain point of saturation before it can precipitate as rain, your consciousness must reach a point of saturation with your desired state before it can manifest. This message is accelerating your conscious saturation. In the book of Joel, it states, "I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh." This pouring out isn't something external. It's overflow of your own consciousness when it reaches the point of saturation. Your presence here, receiving this message, indicates that you're approaching this point. Consider what I call the principle of divine acceleration. When a rocket approaches escape velocity, it must burn more fuel. Similarly, as you approach your point of transformation, you need more spiritual fuel. This message is that fuel, intensifying your conscious acceleration. Let me tell you about what I call a law of spiritual criticality. Just as water must reach a critical temperature to become steam, consciousness must reach a critical state for transformation to occur. Your recognition of this message as significant indicates you're approaching this critical state. In the book of Daniel, it is written, "And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament." This shining isn't physical light, it's the crystallization of your new state in consciousness. Your presence here marks the beginning of this crystallization. You see, what I call the principle of spiritual solidification is at work here. Just as a solution must reach supersaturation before crystals can form, Your consciousness must reach a point of supersaturation with your desired state before it can crystallize into reality. This message is catalyzing this supersaturation. Now, understand what I call the law of conscious momentum. Many believe change requires constant effort, but I tell you this, once consciousness reaches a certain velocity, it generates its own momentum. Your recognition of this message indicates you've reached this critical velocity. In the book of Isaiah, it states, "For as the rain cometh down and returneth not void," this isn't speaking of physical rain. It's speaking of the rain of consciousness. Once your consciousness is saturated with a new state, it must manifest just as rain must fall from saturated clouds. Consider what I call the principle of divine multiplication. Just as a tiny seed contains within it the pattern for entire forest, your current recognition contains within it the pattern for your complete transformation. This message is that seed being planted in the fertile soil of your consciousness. Let me share with you what I call the law of spiritual chain reaction. Just as one atomic reaction can trigger a cascade of reactions, one shift in consciousness can trigger a cascade of transformations. Your encounter with this message is initiating this spiritual chain reaction. Let me share with you one final law, what I call the law of conscious culmination. In the book of Revelation, it is written, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock." This door isn't physical. It's the door of your consciousness. And this message is that knock, calling you to open to your transformation. You see, your presence here isn't just another moment in time. It's what I call the point of divine convergence. Everything in your life has been leading to this moment of recognition. Every experience, every challenge, every triumph has prepared your consciousness for this transformation. Now let me give you what I call the 3 commands of conscious creation that you must follow as you move forward from this moment. First, be still and know. Your external world will try to contradict your new assumption. Signs of change may not be immediately visible, but in consciousness, the work is done. You must remain faithful to your new state, regardless of appearances. Second, let it be done unto you. Don't try to make things happen. Don't force. Don't strain. Your only task is to maintain the assumption that what you desire is already yours. The how, the when, the where, these belong to God, which is your own wonderful human imagination. Third, go and tell no man. This isn't about keeping secrets. It's about maintaining the integrity of your conscious creation. Don't dissipate your creative energy by seeking validation from others. Live from your new state quietly, naturally, as though it has always been so. Remember, the changes coming into your life aren't random events. They're the natural outpicturing of your expanding consciousness. This message isn't just information, it's transformation. It's not just words, it's the voice of your own divinity calling you to a higher state. Your presence here, your recognition of these words as significant, is itself the evidence that you're ready. The changes aren't coming, they're here. The transformation isn't approaching, it's occurring now in your consciousness, where all creation begins. So I say to you, the sign you've been waiting for isn't coming. It's here. The preparation you need isn't in the future, it's now. The state you're meant to occupy isn't distant, it's immediate. For consciousness is the only reality, and in consciousness, all things are eternally present. Take this moment now to feel the naturalness of your transformed state. Feel the reality of it. Feel the completeness of it. For in consciousness, it is already done. And now I tell you this, sleep tonight in the assumption that everything I've told you is true. Not because I said it, but because you recognized it in the depths of your own being. Let this be the night that divides your life into before and after. For when you truly understand that consciousness is the only reality, you'll know that this message wasn't sent to you. It was sent from you, from the you that you're about to become. The door is open. The time is now. The change is here. For that is the law, and that is the promise.
I want to share with you a profound truth about rejection that will forever transform your understanding of its power. What you've been taught to see as rejection is actually a divine redirection, a cosmic compass pointing you toward your true destiny. Let me tell you something that might shake your entire worldview. Every rejection you've ever experienced was actually preparing you for something far greater than what you thought you wanted. You see, most people experience rejection and immediately fall into a state of defeat. But I tell you this, rejection is not your enemy. It is your most faithful teacher, your most precise guide, your most valuable ally. Consider this fundamental truth. Rejection is not happening to you. When you truly grasp this, your entire relationship with rejection will transform. Let me share with you the first lesson about rejection that most will never understand. Every time you face rejection, you're being given an opportunity to strengthen your conviction in your own power. You see, rejection is merely testing the strength of your assumption. Most of you sit here tonight thinking about all the times you've been rejected, all the doors that have been closed, all the opportunities that seem to slip away. But I tell you this, those rejections were not denials. They were divine interventions. When you're rejected, you're not being told no. You're being told not this way. You see, the power that lies within you is far too magnificent to be contained by small opportunities or limited pathways. Consider how different your life would be if you understood that rejection is actually protection. Every time you've been rejected from something you desperately wanted, you are being protected from settling for less than your true destiny. Let me share with you the third lesson about rejection that will revolutionize your understanding. Rejection is not a statement about your worth. It's a statement about alignment. When something or someone rejects you, they're simply acknowledging that they're not in alignment with your true path. The fourth lesson about rejection that I share with you tonight is this: rejection is actually a powerful tool for refinement. Each rejection strips away what is not truly yours, leaving only what perfectly matches your inner state. You see, most people view rejection as subtraction, something being taken away from them. But I tell you this, rejection is actually addition by subtraction. It's removing what doesn't serve your highest good to make room for what does. Rejection is your inner being's way of saying, this is not your highest expression. When you understand this, you'll begin to welcome rejection as a faithful friend guiding you toward your perfect expression. Let me share with you the sixth lesson that will transform how you view every no you receive. Rejection is not the end of a possibility. It's the beginning of a new and better possibility. It's the universe's way of clearing your path. Most of you have been carrying the weight of past rejections like heavy stones in your pocket. But I tell you this, those very rejections were lightweight wings designed to help you soar higher than you ever imagined. The seventh lesson about rejection is perhaps the most profound. Every rejection is actually an invitation to go deeper into your own consciousness, to strengthen your conviction, to purify your assumption of success. Think about this. Every great achievement in history was preceded by numerous rejections. But these weren't really rejections at all. They were refinements, each one bringing the achiever closer to their perfect expression. Let me share with you the eighth lesson that will forever change how you perceive rejection. Rejection is not a wall. It's a doorway. Each rejection opens a new door, leading to something far greater than what you initially sought. Most of you sit here tonight thinking about rejection as something to avoid, something to fear. But I tell you this, rejection is your ally in disguise, your teacher in the shadows, your guide in the darkness. The ninth lesson about rejection that I share with you tonight contains a truth so profound it will revolutionize your entire approach to life. When you understand that rejection is actually selection, you'll never fear it again. You see, most people experience rejection and immediately collapse into a state of unworthiness. But I tell you this, rejection is merely life's way of selecting the perfect circumstances for your grandest expression. The rejection you experience is actually moving you closer to your true desire. It's not pushing you away from success. It's pushing you toward a success so magnificent you couldn't have imagined it. Let me share with you the 11th lesson that will transform your entire relationship with rejection. When you're rejected, you're not being denied, you're being directed. The very power that seems to be saying no is actually guiding you to your perfect yes. Most of you have spent years trying to avoid rejection, trying to be so perfect that rejection becomes impossible. But I tell you this, in doing so, you've been avoiding the very force designed to perfect you. The 12th lesson about rejection holds a truth so powerful it will forever change how you view every no you receive. Rejection is not a statement about your inadequacy. It's a statement about infinite possibility. Think about this. Every rejection you've experienced has actually been preparing you for something far greater than what you were seeking. Each no has been constructing the perfect path to your highest good. Let me share with you the 13th and final lesson that will complete your understanding of rejection's true power. Rejection is not your enemy. It's your most faithful servant, working tirelessly to guide you toward your perfect expression. Most of you have been taught to see rejection as failure. But I tell you this, rejection is actually success in disguise, victory wearing a mask, triumph in its early stages. Now let me deepen your understanding of how these 13 lessons interweave to create a perfect tapestry of success. When you truly grasp their interconnected nature, you'll see rejection in an entirely new light. You see, most people experience rejection and immediately begin to question their worth, their abilities, their dreams. But I tell you this, the very act of questioning is a denial of your divine nature, which knows no limitation. Consider how these lessons work together in perfect harmony. The first lesson teaches you that rejection is your teacher, while the second shows you it's your guide. Together, they reveal rejection as a divine compass pointing toward your highest good. Let me share with you how the third and fourth lessons combine to create an even more powerful truth. When you understand that rejection is both alignment and refinement, you begin to see every no as a sacred gift, sculpting you into your perfect expression. Most of you sit here tonight thinking about all the rejections that have wounded you, all the no's that have discouraged you. But I tell you this, those very wounds are where your new strength is emerging. The fifth and sixth lessons work together to show you that rejection is not just clearing your path. It's actually paving a new and better path. Every rejection is simultaneously closing one door and opening another, grander door. Think about how the seventh and eighth lessons combine to reveal an even deeper truth. When rejection pushes you deeper into your own consciousness, it's actually pushing you through a doorway to greater understanding. Let me share with you how the 9th and 10th lessons work in perfect harmony. When you see rejection as selection, you understand that it's selecting the perfect circumstances for your grandest desires to manifest. Most of you have been taught to see rejection as separate, isolated incidents. But I tell you this, every rejection is connected, creating a perfect pattern leading to your highest good. Now let me show you how the 11th, 12th, and 13th lessons combine to create the master key to using rejection as your greatest ally. When you understand that rejection is direction, possibility, and service all at once, you hold the power to transform every no into your greatest yes. You see, most people experience multiple rejections and see them as repeated failures. But I tell you this, what appears as repeated rejection is actually life refining your path with surgical precision. Consider how differently you would approach rejection if you knew with absolute certainty that each rejection was actually moving you closer to something far greater than what you were seeking. Would you still fear it? Would you still resist it? Let me share with you the profound truth that emerges when you apply all 13 lessons simultaneously. Rejection becomes not just acceptable, but desirable. Not just endurable, but enjoyable. Not just survivable, but transformative. Most of you have spent years trying to build immunity to rejection, trying to become rejection-proof. But I tell you this, in doing so, you've been fighting against the very force designed to perfect your path. Think about every rejection you've ever experienced. Each one was actually life saying, I have something better for you. Each no was actually life saying, keep going. Your perfect expression awaits. Now let me show you how to practically apply these lessons in your daily life. When rejection comes, and it will come, instead of contracting in fear, expand in gratitude. Instead of withdrawing in pain, advance in confidence. You see, the secret lies not in avoiding rejection, but in embracing it as your most faithful servant. When you understand that rejection is actually selection in disguise, you begin to welcome it as a trusted friend. Most of you sit here tonight carrying the weight of past rejections like battle scars. But I tell you this, those aren't scars at all. They're medals of honor, proof that you've been brave enough to pursue your desires. Let me share with you now how to maintain this consciousness of rejection's true power throughout every moment of your day. For it's not enough to merely understand these lessons. You must live them, breathe them, become them. You see, most people wake up each morning carrying yesterday's rejections like heavy chains. But I tell you this, when you wake up knowing rejection is your Allah, those very chains become wings. Consider how your entire day transforms when you move through it. Knowing that every rejection is actually perfect protection, your meetings change, your conversations change, your entire experience changes. Let me share with you what happened. When you maintain this consciousness consistently, rejection loses its sting entirely. What once felt like painful denial now feels like loving direction. Most of you have been taught to prepare for rejection, to brace yourself against it. But I tell you this, pre-preparation implies resistance, and what you resist persists. Instead, welcome rejection as your faithful guide. Think about how differently you would approach each opportunity if you knew with absolute certainty that rejection was impossible. Not because it wouldn't occur, but because every apparent rejection is actually perfect direction. Now, let me show you how this understanding transforms your very being. When you know that rejection is working for you, not against you, your entire energy changes. Your presence changes. Your radiation changes. You see, the real secret lies not in learning to handle rejection, but in recognizing that rejection is actually handling you, guiding you, directing you, perfecting you. Most of you sit here tonight thinking about future rejections with anxiety and fear. But I tell you this, those future rejections are already working in your favor, already creating your perfect path. Let me reveal to you now the deeper implications of these 13 lessons. For they contain a truth so profound it will revolutionize your entire approach to life's apparent denials. You see, most people spend their lives trying to become rejection-proof, trying to be so perfect that rejection becomes impossible. But I tell you this, in doing so, they're actually rejecting the very force designed to perfect it. Consider what happens in your world when you fully embrace rejection as your ally. Opportunities that seem to deny you suddenly reveal themselves as stepping stones. Closed doors become signposts pointing to better pathways. Let me share with you what occurs in your consciousness when you maintain this understanding consistently. The very concept of rejection dissolves entirely. What remains is pure guidance, pure direction, pure love. Most of you have experienced rejection in relationships, in career, and creative endeavors. But I tell you this, each of these rejections was actually life loving you so much that it refused to let you settle for less than your perfect expression. Think about how your past rejections have actually served you. That relationship that didn't work out, it freed you for something better. That job you didn't get, it protected you from settling for less than your worth. Now let me show you how to take these lessons and apply them moving forward. When rejection appears, and it will appear, greet it as you would greet an old friend who has come bearing gifts. You see, the true power lies not in avoiding rejection, but in embracing it as your most faithful teacher. Every rejection is actually a lesson in disguise, a blessing wearing a mask of denial. Most of you sit here tonight thinking about all the times rejection has seemed to defeat you. But I tell you this, you have never been defeated. You have only been directed. Let me now reveal to you the ultimate secret about rejection that ties all these lessons together. When you truly grasp this, your entire relationship with rejection will be transformed forever. You see, most people view rejection as something happening outside of them, an external force working against them. But I tell you this, rejection is actually your own higher self, your own perfect wisdom guiding you toward your greatest good. Consider this profound truth. Every rejection you've ever experienced was actually you rejecting something that was less than your full glory. It wasn't the world saying no to you. It was your divine self saying no to settling. Let me share with you what happens when this understanding becomes your living reality. Suddenly, rejection loses all its power to hurt you. How can you be hurt by something that's working tirelessly for your highest good? Most of you have carried the pain of rejection like a heavy burden. But I tell you this, that very pain was actually the labor pains of your greater self being born. Think about how this understanding transforms your entire approach to life. When you know that rejection is actually protection, every closed door becomes a cause for celebration rather than sorrow. Now let me show you the final piece of this magnificent puzzle. When you fully embrace these 13 lessons, rejection becomes your most trusted advisor, your most loyal friend, your most faithful guide. You see, the ultimate truth about rejection is this. It's not happening to you. It's happening through you. Your own divine wisdom is using rejection to sculpt your life into its perfect expression. Most of you sit here tonight thinking about rejection as something to overcome. But I tell you, this rejection isn't something to overcome. It's something to embrace as your perfect teacher. Let me leave you tonight with the ultimate understanding of rejection's true purpose in your divine journey. For in this final revelation lies the key to transforming every future rejection into pure. You see, most people will leave here tonight and return to their old patterns of fearing and avoiding rejection. But I tell you this, those who grasp these 13 lessons will never again see rejection in the same light. Consider this final truth. Rejection is not the opposite of success. It is success itself in its early stages. Just as the sculptor must chip away everything that is not the masterpiece, rejection chips away everything that is not your perfect life. Let me share with you what your life becomes when you fully embrace this understanding. Every rejection becomes a reason for celebration. Every no becomes a stepping stone to your perfect yes. Every denial becomes a divine redirection. Most of you came here tonight carrying the weight of past rejections, the fear of future rejections, the pain of present rejections. But I tell you this, from this moment forward, you need carry these burdens no more. Think about tomorrow morning when you wake up. Will you rise as the same person who walked in here tonight? Or will you rise as someone who understands that rejection is actually life's greatest blessing in disguise? Now, let me give you this final assurance. As you leave here tonight and begin applying these 13 lessons, you'll find that rejection loses its sting entirely. What once felt like punishment now feels like guidance. What once felt like failure now feels like redirection. You see, the ultimate power lies not in becoming rejection-proof, but in becoming rejection-wise. When you understand that rejection is actually selection, protection, and direction all at once, you hold the key to transforming every no into your greatest victory. From this moment forward, I want you to make this sacred commitment to yourself. Promise that you will never again see rejection as your enemy. Promise that you will embrace it as your faithful guide. Promise that you will welcome it as your perfect teacher. For in this promise lies your freedom. In this understanding lies your power. In this knowing lies everything you have ever desired. Go forth now, not as someone who fears rejection, but as someone who welcomes it. Move forward not as someone who avoids rejection, but as someone who embraces it. Live not as someone who is defeated by rejection, but as someone who is directed by it. Remember, rejection is not your enemy. It never was, and it never will be. It is your most faithful servant working tirelessly to guide you toward your perfect expression. This is your moment. This is your understanding. This is your transformation. Rise now and live from this truth. The world is waiting for you to embrace rejection as your greatest ally. For when you do, everything changes. Everything transforms. This is your time. This is your truth. This is your power. Now and always. And so it is.